On July 11th, 2024, the Water Fairness Coalition of Southern Nevada hosted a 2.5-hour seminar and panel discussion by experts in economics, water law, agronomy, irrigation, and hydrology. These experts presented overwhelming statistics, facts, and counterarguments against the misguided state legislation and draconian water and irrigation policies being forced upon homeowners, residents, and citizens of Clark County in Southern Nevada. More than 140 HOA officers, residents, public policy experts, and citizen journalists were in attendance to listen to the facts presented. The event was sponsored by the Water Fairness Coalition of Southern Nevada and its executive director, Laura McSwain.
Laura McSwain here, president and founder of the Water Fairness Coalition. As part of our mission, it is to help educate the community and try to break things down into digestible parts so that people can have a sense of what is really going on with our water policy and the effects that it may have on our community. As part of that education, being that Southern Nevada Water Authority is really not paying attention to us when we go to our meetings and when we try to reach out to politicians, all things that we will continue to do. We're coming to you directly, we're bringing in experts, and we recently held a luncheon at Spanish Trail Country Club. We were the sponsors. We brought in 5 speakers. It was about 2.5-hour luncheon, well received, well attended, but we want to be able to bring this to the broader community. So we videoed the luncheon, and for this exercise, we've broken it down into 5 digestible parts. Each speaker has its own unique perspective and expertise that they're bringing to you. We hope that you will take in all of these volumes at your pace, and please enjoy. Welcome John Musick, 50-year water warrior. He's going to be presenting the law of the river.
If I say anything to offend anybody, I'll let myself out. That is a line I heard a guy use at the last conference I attended on water in New Mexico. He was a retired rodeo clown that saved bull riders from the horns of the bull. And he had everybody in the audience, last guy to speak, including all of the executives, all the state of public officials, applauding at what he said, which is, you have a good goal, but you're going about it the wrong way. You're siloing your approaches. And he says, if we do that in the bull ring, somebody's going to get hurt. We have to be horizontal and vertical in our application. We have to look forward and backward. So I share that with you because this was a rodeo clown that was smarter than all the PhDs, lawyers, and engineers and politicians in the room, and made some real witticism. He's from Texas, I'm from Texas, so I had a kind of a bonding with him. If you want to know what I've done and so forth, it's in the information. My personal webpage is at johnmusick.com. It ain't bragging if you've done it. I've done it. It's there. You can look at my CV, and it goes on for pages because I'm very, very verbose. But in real simple terms, over 50-some-odd years in working throughout the Colorado River, rivers in New Mexico, Texas, Hawaii. I do a lot of work for the Native Hawaiians in Hawaii. I do all of that pro bono for them for the last 35 years, trying to help them recover their ancestral water rights. I've got a kind of a feeling about things, and one of them is use the numbers that people that are the experts in it use. I'm not an expert. I used to have a pocket square that was plastic, and I had my pins and slide rule in it, but now I carry my slide rule on my belt. But I'm still a nerd, and I like to play with numbers. But I go with what the experts say. I took SNWA's numbers and their 2024 annual report and all their annual reports that go back. They're required by law to publish it, called the Water Resources Plan. You can get it online. Studied all 78 pages, took every number there, diagnosed it, and I said, these are really, really good numbers. How did they reach the conclusions they did? And I said, there's something not, and it occurred to me, people that use numbers can be really good at it, but they are sometimes driving an agenda too. So I had to look at how they were approaching things, and I had to go back and rely upon 50-some years of experience on the Colorado River, go back into history on all the data that we have collected, both anthropologically and otherwise, and I've spent a good part of my life trying to understand this. I don't profess to be an expert. I'm anything but an expert. I am now learning how much at 79 I don't know. And I welcome you to dive into this pool because it is both deep and shallow. There's a lot to be known about water. Does Las Vegas have to do what it needs to do to survive and grow? It has to do something. Conservation is good, but then there are other things it needs to do. The Colorado River is basically governed by the law of the river. I cite a few of the laws, but there are lots of them. There are cases, and they go on ad nauseum. And by the way, lawyers are important in this process, but they're the last resort. Engineers, consultants, accountants, auditors, scientists, these people will help you get to the right answer. If there is ever to be any change in the allocation of water on the river, it is driven by the governor, who has exclusive authority to call for, with the other basin states, a reinvestigation of this. And as far as I'm concerned, could be wrong legally, but it's a non-delegable power that he has to use, select his negotiator, and then supervise. He can't just turn it over to an unelected official in an agency. Because this is negotiation at the highest level, which then has to involve the President of the United States. So this is very important. So if you hear people talking about, well, we're going to have negotiations on the Colorado River, you better think again. You better think about, what do you have? And Las Vegas, under the law, was among the first to be allocated water out of the Colorado River before there was a Colorado River Compact. They had Nevada water rights. And Nevada water law goes back to Virginia City in the mining days. In fact, all of water law started out of what the mining camps did, and how they allocated water and protected water users. So Nevada, but in particularly Clark County, has its rights before the compact in 1922. And since that time, there have been more guarantees of those rights. Let's talk very briefly about what those rights are. We need to look at, first, there was direct flow. Water running out of the stream, they picked it up either by well that was connected to the river or by direct flow out of the river. In 1922, Las Vegas was taking water principally by the artesian wells in the area, but there were other Colorado River users on the Virgin and the Muddy that were taking water rights by direct flow, and they had senior guaranteed appropriative rights. Then dams came in, and the dams were designed around stabilizing the flow to meet the guarantees so that every direct flow user would get its water. But remember, Las Vegas is one of the first. Now, Winters versus Arizona, Winters versus U.S., it was a case started out of Arizona, was a case that said the Indian tribes, their reservation rights were perfected for them at the time of the reservation, and it's a very murky legal area that they're still trying to define what they are, but we share that seniority with our Indian neighbors, and they today are now authorized and have been emboldened to work out water sharing, leasing, purchase, economic relationships with other people so they can grow their reservations. They're not challenging your use. They are going to be a partner in enabling it. The Indian tribe that has the golf course in North Las Vegas, for example, on the Las Vegas Wash. Good folks, smart. No water, they're your friend. And they are someone you can turn to in times of shortages. You also have the allocations. Now, Compact allocated 2% to the state of Nevada, which means Clark County, which means the Virgin, the Muddy River, and Las Vegas. 2%, the 1928 Boulder Canyon Project Act that designed and built and caused the creation of Lake Mead, it said that was 4% of the lower basin, starting at Nevada and Arizona, measured at Lee Ferry on the Colorado River. And that 4% was allocated 300,000 acre feet at the time of the compact in the Boulder Canyon Project Act, subject to decline or increase depending on how much water was there. The lower basin is guaranteed to have 7.5 million acre feet, regardless of what the upper basin needs. The upper basin has to, and that's Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, has to deliver 7.5 million acre feet at Lee Ferry, up to 100% of the flow if that's all there's there. Las Vegas is 4% of that, 300,000 acre feet. Actually not Las Vegas, Nevada, of which 276,205 acre feet are under allocation and distribution by Southern Nevada Water Authority. That number is actually 272,205 plus 4,000 acre feet from Nellis Air Force Base. But as long as we play nice with the military, I think it's safe to conclude that that's part of the allocation. That number is limited only by direct flow in the river as modified by security guaranteed by the dams. What does that mean? If the dams are not there, you hear there's a dead pool, they're going to dry up. Or let's take the worst case, the dams are gone. Las Vegas is number one to touch 7.5 million acre feet out of the river to the extent of 4%. And who's number two? Well, Arizona, California are number 2 and 3, depending on how they fight it out in court. Arizona lost a case, Arizona versus California, and so it's California first. But who takes the first straw out? Las Vegas, SNWA. So I keep coming back to what does Las Vegas have? What does Clark County, what does SNWA have? And they have a unique position on the river. The city of Las Vegas, basically Clark County, most of the metropolitan area, is very, very close to the reservoir. Obviously, then any water that is distributed from the city, like recycling wastewater in the Las Vegas wash, goes into the reservoir. That's an important thing to keep in mind, because does any other state in the lower basin have that proximity? No. Phoenix, Arizona doesn't. MWD, Los Angeles doesn't. They do not have that proximity. They need dams to get their water. Now, Imperial Irrigation District down in Calexico or Palo Verde at Blythe, and the Indians, tribal nations, have proximity to the river, but they can use the recycling credit. Well, let's look and see what the recycling credit is. There is a formula known as exponential decay. And I don't mean to get wonky on you, and those of you who are math whizzes will be able to correct all of the numbers I give. But if you look at the first drop the first day out of the river, and you only consume 10% of that, then you have 90% left. And if you take that drop out, plus whatever is necessary to put it back up, another 10% to 100%, how long will that formula last you? 135 years on the first drop, second drop, third drop. And what does that mean? That means as long as Nevada has the proximity to the river and conducts recycling and does it efficiently, and so far they're doing it very efficiently, they'll be able to use that. Now, SNWA has in their water resource report these numbers, and I ask you to look at it because they break it down. The one thing they miss is first recycling use, what happens to the second? One of the answers is, well, we've foregone that because of agreements on the river. Only the governor can change that. So go back to the first principle. The governor has to be involved in waiving these rights. Have an excellent governor. He's wise, and he will help you reach the right decision on this. Look at the other states just real quickly. There's Southern California. I made that copy of that picture. It's terrible, but you can see proximity. The Salton Sea is here, and we all know where that is, and Imperial Irrigation is here, but they take the water out of the river. And the recycling is possible, but there's also a big demand for their water at the Salton Sea, where they're putting in new lithium mines and rare earth mines and so forth. So there are increasing demands. But in the whole issue is, of all the allocations out of the river, who has the strongest position? I still go back to it's Nevada. I have no real ox being gored. I don't own anything here. I'm a guest at a house here occasionally, but I have worked in Nevada on behalf of lawyers and law firms as a consultant, and I have been here on and off since 1974. And I have a strong affinity for Nevada and for what happens in Las Vegas. I've traveled every corner of this state. I've walked on almost every farm and ranch here. And so I'm here to help you understand the resources that are available for you to defend what you have. The entire issue is at the lowest stream flow, even during drought, climate change, global warming, catastrophic drought. It is my estimation that you will have an adequate supply with recycling to meet your existing needs and future growth, okay? That doesn't mean you should not conserve. It doesn't mean you should not recycle. It means you need to have it in proper balance. If you'll look at the next chart, this is a table straight from the SNWA water resource table. It's figure 4.1. You'll find it in the resource. It's page 46, I think. And go look through it. Just look at what they have done. They should get a standing applause from everybody in Southern Nevada or Nevada. In fact, on the Colorado River, they've done an excellent job under Pat Mulroy's leadership. And I know there was some problems over the pipeline in Long Valley and what happened there, but put that aside. They deserve all the kudos for what they have accomplished. In my humble opinion, what they have done now with AB 356, AB 220, and these laws is they have lost their mojo. They were the smallest mouse in the elephant herd that had the best rights, and as long as they stayed away from the elephants, they weren't going to get smashed. So they deserve the credit. They've been doing that for a long time. Las Vegas is an area that was. Now I'm going to talk about something I know nothing about. Probably everybody in this room does. What is your brand? What is Las Vegas's brand? Well, I keep looking at it and I go, the brand is abundance. I mean, do you ever have a casino take out an ad saying, come, lose your money, and if you win, we can't pay you? We're out of money. The food is cold. The beer is warm. That's not what happens. I don't understand why the casinos are not standing here with me, because of all the businesses, they've done the most admirable job. First of all, they have the first priority of water on the river because they have groundwater that runs through the Las Vegas Wash, which is under their casino footprint, and they take the water out. They've been doing admirable work in husbanding the water inside the casinos. They should be protecting their brand, because growth can only happen if people want to come. Now, I did a slide trying to point this out, and it is, what do? We allocate surplus, we don't allocate shortage. That's what you should be doing. And the more water equals more economy, less water equals less economy. Everywhere you go, anywhere in the world, read the professional papers. This is the conclusion of people a lot smarter than me. If you allocate shortage, it equals less water. Now, wait a minute, what does that mean? That doesn't make sense. We're allocating shortage by conservation. Why is that less water? Under water law, and here's, all the lawyers are going to disagree with me, and most of the bureaucrats will disagree with me, but under water law, you only lose it if you don't use it. Okay, your water right attached to the river before the dams, it was a direct flow water right to be satisfied by direct flow at any time you want. And if you were using 300,000 acre feet and you voluntarily curtailed it back by reducing your use, whatever you curtailed back, you just gave to California. Okay? Lawsuits will be filed by this. People will probably try to have me disbarred over saying that, because they say you don't know what you're talking about. pretty good guess I'm right on that, since it's been defended as a legal right since the beginning of time, since the first, in 1859, the first laws were created in the mining camps. Continue to use it, but you must use it reasonably without waste. So there is a test there, so you have to be wise about it, but don't shrink your supply. Take that supply and reallocate it to a different but equal use, hopefully more economically viable. That's, and as I say, if you want to get me in real trouble, tell SNWA that, and they will, I'll be drug out of town on a rail. But it is true, and it's worth fighting for, because otherwise, who's the beneficiary? And I'm a California lawyer, and I represent a lot of clients in California, big water districts. I also have my own businesses in water supply in California, but nothing relating to the river. We're about increasing supply with recycling. So it's good enough for California, it's good enough for you. The last slide I leave it with, ask yourself, is the excessive use charge destroying trees and grass? Is it enhancing your brand, or is it threatening the quality of your life? That's your judgment to make. Most of you are multi-generational families. You know better than I do what it took to be here and how to make this a great place. I think you have the wisdom to make that decision. I encourage you to get involved, because that's the way the decision is made at the highest level with customer input. And the last thing I will say is, I have also, regrettably, developed a few pieces of property over the years. And the first rule I had was, and I've also represented some of your big developer names here, and I always said to them, and they paid me for my advice, you pay the cost for your growth. How much does it cost you? I guarantee you, out of your P&L, it'll be virtually a decimal point, $100 a home, for you to acquire the water you need to have the water available for growth. That's minuscule in the balance sheet of these companies. I know, I've studied them. They're your friend. Bring them along. Hughes, Rhodes, Kaufman and Broad, all of the great developers. Just let them know they need to be a partner with you, so you don't put a burden of future growth on existing residents. Because who are the existing residents? People that paid the cost of building the water system over the last 100 years, that have come in as pioneers, and they have built this system. I think they have equity. That equity should not be a bill to sponsor more growth. My humble opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you found this informational, educational, and inspirational. And if you did, please consider joining us, registering for our organization, and making a contribution so that we may further educate and expand this knowledge throughout the community. It is an important effort. We want to preserve our quality of life here in Southern Nevada. We are a growing community, but we need to grow smartly, and growth needs to pay for itself. Please consider a donation to the Water Fairness Coalition. Thank you for your time and your attention.